Hi, everybody. This is Chuck Sambucino with Writer's Digest, Writer's Digest University, and Guide to Literary Agents. Thanks for joining us today for our free webinar. Hope everyone can hear me A-OK. I am just here to introduce our speaker. As you can see, Nina Amir is our speaker today. We have a very, very special free webinar going on today, How to Blog a Book. And Nina Amir, as she'll tell you more about herself, but Nina has got a book coming out next week, a very exciting book called How to Blog a Book. So that's out next week. This webinar today is in celebration of that book, and it's going to be 60 minutes long. Thanks for joining us. And so let me tell you a little bit about how this works. So it's about 60 minutes long. Nina will teach it. You do have the ability to ask the presenter questions. That's the first thing you need to know. There's a questions box on the right. You can submit your questions at any time. When you're done, you hit submit or return or whatever, and it submits them. People often say, oh, I submitted my question and it disappeared. Where did it go? Don't worry. It just goes to a well, and they all kind of get sent to Nina. Now, normally with Writer's Digest webinars, we have this policy, no question goes unanswered, meaning no matter how many questions come in, she will answer all of them, even if she has to do it afterwards. We convert the Q&A to some sort of PDF or Microsoft Word document. And we can't do that today because it's a free webinar. But you can submit your questions, and Nina will answer as many as she can, within the timelines of the webinar, even if she goes a few minutes late. So keep that in mind. Feel free to ask questions, and if something's unclear, something she says, definitely shoot her a note. The next thing you need to know is that all Writer's Digest webinars, including this free one, are recorded. So you will, within 1 week, you will be getting a recording of this webinar. You will be able to listen to it as many times as you want for up to a year. It will kind of be like in a video form, and you can enjoy it. So sit back, relax. You don't have to take notes unless you want to. If you have to get up or you have to tend to something, you have to step away from the phone or the computer, you will get the recording later. You're not going to miss a thing. The webinar program at Writer's Digest usually happens on Thursday afternoons at 1 p.m. Like I said, this is a very special free webinar celebrating Nina's book, which we're excited about. But definitely check out the webinars that we offer on Thursdays. For example, tomorrow, if you're interested in publishing ebooks and putting an ebook on Amazon or online and making money, Jane Friedman, who is our e-media guru here at Writer's Digest, is teaching a very, very popular webinar on how to make money selling your ebooks now. In other words, how to do it right, how to decide on pricing, how to decide on what platforms to do it. Very excited about that. And we have stuff every Thursday. The way to keep in touch with us and see what's going on with our current webinars and anything else that we're doing is, one, sign up for our Writer's Digest newsletter, which you can just find at writersdigest.com. It's free. And also follow us on Twitter, which is our handle is exactly what you think it is. It's at Writer's Digest. These are great, simple ways for you to keep track of what's going on in the Writer's Digest world, and then see our mix of free resources and articles that we put online, as well as webinars and other stuff that we are offering. So all that said, let's get around to Nina. She's going to tell you more about the webinar, but let me tell you a little bit about her. Nina Amir is Inspiration to Creation Coach. She inspires writers to create the results they desire, publishable and published products, and careers as writers and authors. She's a seasoned journalist, nonfiction editor, proposal consultant, blogger, blog-to-book coach, and book and author coach with more than 33 years of experience in the publishing field. She's also the founder of Write Nonfiction in November, a blog and writing challenge. She's also a popular speaker on topics related to publishing, writing, and human potential, and she has authored to this point 11 books. Her latest book, which we're celebrating today, is How to Blog a Book, Write, Publish, and Promote Your Work, one post at a time. Comes out, I believe, in a week, if I'm not mistaken. So, Nina, if you are on the line, you can take it away, and we won't jump in unless we need to.
Thank you so much, Chuck. It's a pleasure to be here, and thanks for the great introduction. So thank you all for being here. I'm really excited about my book. It is available now in all the online stores, and but it will be arriving in the brick-and-mortar stores just a week or so. So it is available if you're wanting to go out and buy it. You can get it online at a great price right now, and you can go into the bookstores and get your hands on it, I think, on the 21st. So let's get going. Today we're talking about how to blog a book, a really exciting concept that I'm so thrilled to talk to you about. So we begin with a question, and I know that you can't answer this question because you're all muted, but the question is, how many of you struggle to find time to write your book and to build the author's platform you need to produce a successful book? one that will sell to publishers and to lots of readers. That's how I define a successful book, one that will sell to publishers and to lots of readers. So majority of times when I talk to groups of people, a lot of people raise their hands because they do find that it's difficult. Writers find that it's difficult to get their books written and to build this platform they need. So if you don't know what an author's platform is, I'll backtrack just a little bit. An author's platform is this base of readers, potential readers that you create by everything you do to get people to know who you are. And that could be by blogging, it could be by speaking, it could be by social networking, it could be by writing articles for magazines. Anything at all that you do that allows people to meet you in some way and get to know you so that they will want to buy your book when you say, my book is ready. Here it is, it's published, go out, and then they run out to buy it. So that's what an author's platform is. So it can be difficult to build this platform and get your book written because building a platform can take a lot of time, and there's a lot of grumbling out there amongst writers who say that they don't want to build a platform, they just want to write their books. But in order to have a successful book, one that does sell to a publisher and to lots of readers, you need to have this author's platform. So if you don't want to be in the 81% of all Americans who say that they have a book in their head that they want to get out, 81% of all Americans say that they want to write a book. They have an idea for a book, but they don't write their books. So if you don't want to be amongst those 81% who say they have a book but don't write it, and you'd rather be in the 2% that actually do write their book, you need to have this author's platform. And you also need to get your book written. So you need to be able to do both. You need to write your book and create that fan base. So how do you do that? You do that by blogging a book. The easiest way to write your book and to build your author's platform at the same time is to blog your book. And then we're going to be talking about how you actually go about doing that. When you blog a book, you write, publish, and promote your book at the same time on the internet using blog technology. And it's a lot of fun. So, because what you're doing is you actually are composing your book. You're writing it, you're creating a manuscript, but you are putting that work up on a blog where everyone can see it and read it, and you're creating a readership. And that readership is that fan base. It's that platform. And the bigger that platform becomes, the more likely you are to get noticed by agents, by publishers, and of course by readers. The more readers you get, the more and more readers come to your blog. And you can then produce a self-published book successfully because there are all those fans out there waiting to buy your book, and you also can attract a publisher. So the fact is you can actually blog your way to a book deal. And lots of people have done that. Lots of bloggers have done that. And here are some that you may know about and some that you may not know about. Julia and Julia, of course, is a book lots of you may have heard of. Julie Powell blogged her way to fame and to a book deal and also to a movie deal by writing about cooking Julia Child's recipes. And she did that on her blog. And she grew a huge following, a huge readership, and that got her noticed. And we've all heard about her probably. So another successful book was Christian Lander's Stuff White People Like. He started his book as a way to entertain his friends. He liked to make his friends laugh, and he started to write about the unique things that white people liked that other people didn't. And he not only made his friends laugh, he made a lot of other people laugh, and his blog grew and grew and grew and grew until a publisher noticed. And he got a book deal. Pamela Slim with Escape from Cubicle Nation wrote about how to help people who were working in corporations get out of corporations and become entrepreneurs. And her blog was hugely successful, and she also landed a book deal. And again, these were not people who went looking for book deals. Agents or publishers found them. Now, these were early book deals in this trend of blog to book. And more recently, we've had people like Jill Abramson, who had the unfortunate experience of walking out of the New York Times building where she worked and getting hit by, I believe it was, a bus or a truck. And she suffered some major injuries. And while she was recuperating, she got depressed, and she got a puppy to help her through her recuperation and her depression. And she began to write about her recuperation and this puppy in what she called the Puppy Diaries. And that was made into a book. So this blog of hers and her story of her recuperation with this puppy was made into a book. And then there was Kevin Cotter, whose wife left him, and all she left behind was her wedding dress. And he was dejected and depressed also, and he began to take her wedding dress around and use it for different things, including, as you can see on the cover of his book, 101 Uses for My Ex-Wife's Wedding Dress, as a hammock. And his blog was also hugely successful, attracted a lot of readers, and before he knew it, he was approached by an agent or a publisher, and he landed himself a book deal. Dmitry Samarov was a cab driver, is a cab driver. He was also an artist, and he decided to draw pictures and to write about his daily experiences driving his cab. So, be careful if you ride in his cab. He might be writing about you, and but that made for good reading. And he landed himself a book deal as well, as did Sarah Wu with Fed Up with Lunch. She went undercover for a year as Mrs. Q and wrote about school lunches, and she landed herself a book deal, as did Grace Bonney, who had a very, very successful kind of do-it-yourself blog, talking about everything from home entertaining to creating any number of things yourself, with crafts. And she landed herself a book deal with Design Sponge at Home. So all of these were blogs that were then turned into books. So this is just to prove that you can indeed blog your way to a book deal. These people did so. So how do you blog your way to a book deal? And is it possible? Are there people still getting these deals? Indeed, there are more blog-to-book deals than ever before. In 2009, we were told that this was the height of the blog-to-book deal trend. First, they said 50 blog-to-book deals were made, and then some experts said 60 blog-to-book deals were made. But I have a Google alert for the terms blog-to-book and blog-to-book deal. And if you don't know what a Google alert is, you can actually go to Google and you can you can actually set up an alert for the terms that you want to be alerted to. For instance, your name or the title of your book or any subjects related to your book. So I have these terms set up, like blog-to-book and blog-to-book deals. And in October of 2011, I happened to notice, because I don't always actually open the emails that come to me with these alerts. Sometimes I'm too busy. And I hadn't been paying attention, but in October I happened to notice that at least 6 blog-to-book deals were released by traditional publishers that month. Now that may not sound like a lot, but it actually is, because if you start to think about it, if every month of 2011, 6 blog-to-book deals were released, if every month, all year long, there had been that many, that would be 72 possible blog-to-book releases that year. which would mean that there were more blog-to-book deals made in 2011 than in 2009, which means that the trend is only going upward, that there are more blog-to-book deals being made than ever before. So that means that there's lots of reason for you to want to blog a book. So while many of you may be on this call because you're already convinced that you want to blog a book, I think that there's good reason to go through the reasons for going ahead and blogging a book, because it's different than booking a blog. And booking a blog means to repurpose your blog posts. And I'm going to spend a few moments later on in discussing booking a blog. That actually repurposing your blog posts, by that I mean going back. You know, if you've had a successful blog and you want to go back and look through it to find posts that you can put into a book. That's what all these other bloggers did. But I'm talking about writing a book from scratch on your blog. So even if you're convinced you want to blog a book, I want to go through the 10 reasons to consider blogging your book into existence in case there are people here on the call who aren't sure that this is a good thing to be doing. Okay, so we're going to spend a little time going through these 10 reasons. First, a blog allows you to publish as you write. So again, I know you can't answer these questions, but do you want to be a published author? Most of you on the call, I'm sure, would like to be a published author, and I'm sure that there are some of you who would like to be a self-published author. The fact of the matter is, when you blog, there's a little button that you hit. Some of you who may be blogging already may know what that button looks like. Because when you finish writing your blog post or copying and pasting what you've written into your blogging technology, whether you use WordPress or Blogger or TypePad, it doesn't really matter. There's a little button that you push when you make your blog public. And it says Publish. Every time you hit that button, you become a published author and you become a self-publisher. So a blog allows you to publish as you write and to become a published author and a publisher. And you need to know that as you become a blogger or as you are blogging, you become a published author and a self-publisher. So that's number one. Number two, a blog book gives you exposure and builds platform. We discussed platform. A publisher is going to want you to have platform. They're looking for authors who have platform. Unless you go with a very small publisher, they will want you to have platform. Even the small publishers want you to have platform. As I said, as a self-published author, you still need platform if you want to have a successful book. It is just a fact of the publishing industry that you must have platform, especially if you want to go the traditional publishing route. A publisher is going to want you to have platform. They want to have business partners, people, writers who are good business partners, and good business partners can help them promote the book. And the way you promote the book is by telling your fan base about it. And if you have no fan base, then no platform, you can't be a good business partner. And exposure is how you build platform. So a blog book gives you exposure and builds platform. According to Nielsen BookScan, the average U.S. book now sells less than 250 copies per year and less than 3,000 copies over its lifetime. That's a pretty sad number. Every time I see that, I think that. However, a blog with 300 to 1,000 readers a day or 3,000 readers a month is a platform. You can sell more books or have more readers, more readers in a day or a month on your blog than you can with the average book. So that is why a blog gives you exposure and gives you platform, because of the number of readers you can have per day or per month on your blog. And that's why publishers are looking at that. Number three, a blog book gives you expert status. According to Technorati, which is a blog aggregator, they actually keep track of all the blogs that exist in the blogosphere. 56% of all bloggers say their blog has helped them establish a position as a thought leader within an industry. This is a statistic that they came up with during a survey a few years ago. They survey the industry, the blogging industry, every year. They also found that 58% say they're better known in their industry because of their blog. So this is what comes out of being a blogger, that you become an expert just by blogging. And this was the case for Darren Rouse and for Chris Garrett. Chris Garrett actually has written a foreword to my book, How to Blog a Book. Darren Rouse in particular was blogging about a variety of topics, and then he began to hone his topic down to how he was becoming a professional blogger, a pro blogger. And the more he blogged on this topic, the more readers he gained, and eventually he was approached by Wiley. And out of that came this book, Pro Blogger, which was based on his blog. He became an expert. He gained expert status by just continuously blogging on his topic. And that's what can happen to you, especially nonfiction writers. This is a phenomenal aspect of blogging. A blog book gets your writing read. So people say that writers write because they must, they just have to write. But I say that writers write because they want to be read. And there's no better way to be read than on a blog. As I said, while the average book may only sell 300 copies a year, your blog can have 300 readers or more per day. So if you keep blogging, like in the field of dreams, readers will come. A blog book allows you to test market your book. This is one of the most phenomenal things about blogging also, that it's a cheap and effective way to test market your book idea. You can put it out there. You can, you can write your book. You can put all or part of it out there on your blog, and you can see if anyone shows up to read it. It's a test marketing. You can put it out there, see what happens, see if you get readers interested, and if no one shows up, you can get rid of it. A successful blog, though, is as close to a sure bet as a publisher can find. I actually heard the president of Hyperion Press say that never before has there been a way for publishers to test market an idea. And so they rely on bloggers to do that, and that's why publishers go out into the blogosphere looking for successful blogs, because when they find one, for them, that is as close to a sure bet as they can find. And for you, as I said, if you blog your book and no readers show up, you can always just delete it. It's free, or can be almost free and easy. Number 6, a blog book provides a daily writing commitment. So for a lot of writers, they don't get their books written because they don't have this writing commitment. So why would a blog be any different? The fact is that once you start a blog and you start to get a few readers, that makes it easier, but that's something we're going to talk about in a minute. Basically, though, if you have a blog, you're going to decide to write regularly. And you're going to create a schedule, and you're going to stick to it, because that's how a blog really takes off. If you're going to blog a book in particular, you're going to say, I'm going to post on these days, and I'm going to stick to that schedule so that I begin to get a rhythm and I begin to get readers. And so you're much more likely to get that writing commitment going, to get it firm and to get your book written, because you will have this blog which is public. So it's a public writing commitment that you're making. This is huge. A blog book allows you to get feedback on your writing. You're actually getting comments from readers, real readers of your book. Many of you may belong to critique groups, and your critique groups are great. There's nothing wrong with a critique group. But you may find that you are in a critique group where nobody is interested in your subject matter. Maybe your critique group is made up of all fiction writers and you are a nonfiction writer. Or maybe your critique group is made up of fiction writers and you're writing fantasy. You give them your work and they really don't have a huge interest in it or a lot of knowledge about it. But when you blog a book, you're actually having your book read by people who are interested in your book. They're your actual readers, and the comments you get back are from actual readers. This is invaluable. Also, you have the opportunity to survey these readers, to put up forums where these readers can interact with each other and where you can interact with them. You can ask them questions, you can talk to them, you can get all kinds of feedback. You can even crowdsource parts of your book. It's really phenomenal. Number 8, a blog book ensures you complete your manuscript. There are so many writers who get started and they never finish their manuscripts. When you blog a book, it's less likely to happen. Your readers become your accountability partners, and this is what I alluded to earlier. As you get going and you begin to develop a readership, those readers are waiting for you. They're waiting to turn the page. And so you don't want to stop in the middle and not finish. Matter of fact, if you've set up the schedule that we talked about and they're waiting Monday, Wednesday, Friday for you to post, you also don't want to not post on Wednesday because they're going to wonder what happened to you. So they're waiting to turn the page. And if you stop before you finish, then you fail publicly. And nobody likes to fail publicly. So there's a higher likelihood that these accountability partners of yours are going to make sure that you complete the manuscript. Not that they're going to make you, but because you're going to feel more motivated because they're there. Everyone knows an accountability partner, whether it's a coach or a friend, a writing partner, helps you finish your project, helps you meet your goals. So blogging a book is a wonderful way to get inspired to finish or get motivated to finish. I was able to blog my book, How to Blog a Book, in 5 months because I had the schedule and I knew I had accountability partners, I had readers, and so I just plowed on through till the end. And it was great. I wrote 3 to 4 posts a week, and I was done in 5 months with the first draft. So I can tell you it really works. It's very motivating. Okay, a blog book lets you show what you've got. Now, it is true that you are giving away a lot of your work. You're giving away a lot of your book. People get upset about that. They get worried about it. But you're not giving it all away. You are giving away a good portion of it, but this allows people to get to know you and to trust you. That's a big part of what social media is all about. It is about getting those fans to discover who you are and to really find out that you are the expert, or to enjoy your writing and to want more. And in that way, you will get them to want to buy your book. So the question always comes to me, why would they want to buy the book when it's available online? Well, you know, it's not that easy to read a blogged book. You can read the blogged book, and there are ways to make it easier to read the blogged book. But a blog always has the most recent post first. People don't always want to go to the beginning of the blog and start reading. There are ways to make the blog, the book accessible, to create a table of contents, all those kind of things, so that somebody can read from the beginning. But it's so much easier to actually have a book in hand. So there are people who want to get that book. So even if they've read your whole blogged book online, they are going to eventually want to have the book. And what you're going to do is you're going to save or create something to entice readers and publishers to want to get that printed book, to create that printed book, and to buy that printed book. So you're going to have some chapters that are left unpublished on your blog, or some interviews. As you edit and you revise, your book grows. My book more than doubled in size. When I edited it and revised it, it almost doubled. And then when I got done with the editors at Writer's Digest, it had grown some more. So it is way more than double the size of its the first draft, which was something like 26,300 words. It's now way more than double that. So there's a lot more in my book, and I kept 2 chapters out specifically. So that's the idea, is that you will give away a lot of it, but there will be something new there to entice readers and publishers. And last but not least, a blog book lets you and your blog get discovered. So of course you can be discovered by readers and by publishers while you're blogging your book, because you are creating all this content online, and what that's doing for you is it is creating that fan base and that readership. And when you're discovered, that is good reason to celebrate, because when a publisher trolls the internet and finds you, or an agent, and says, we want to offer you a contract, you're going to be very excited. Okay, so let's get down to the nitty-gritty of how you do this. So there's 7 things you need to do before you blog a book. Number 1, you're going to choose a topic. And I know that sounds silly or simplistic, but you need to choose your topic carefully. When you blog a book, you're not going to blog and just finish the book and be done. When I started, there weren't any people actually blogging books. They were just blogging and hoping to get a book deal. But so when I finished my book, I thought I was done, and then I realized I couldn't just be done. I had to keep blogging. So that's the thing. Know that you're going to blog your book, but your blog should stay alive. If you want to keep promoting your book, you need to be able to keep blogging on your topic. For fiction writers, this is a little more difficult, and there's some techniques that you can employ. But choose a topic carefully, because you need to blog long after your book is done. Hone your subject. Okay, this means to really look at what's out there in the brick and mortar stores, what's out there in the online bookstores, what's out there in terms of blogs. You want your blogged book to be unique. And so it has to be unique in terms of books and in terms of blogs, so that you are gaining readers from both. Then you need to map out your book's content. And you need to figure out what it is that's going to go on your blog. And you need to chunk it down into your content into post-sized pieces. So you'll map out that content, and then you'll break it down into 250 or 500-word pieces. Do not be writing a 1,000-word blog post, or you'll be done with your book in no time flat, and you won't ever create a readership. So you want to be blogging over a longer period of time. 5 months for me was not long enough. I should have been blogging for a longer period of time. Create a business plan for your book. Every book should have a business plan. The best business plan for a book is actually a book proposal. I take people through what I call the proposal process, so that we could get the information that goes into a business plan, into a book proposal, and we create a business plan out of that. But create a business plan for your book. Of course, you're going to need a blog. I highly recommend WordPress, and preferably not the free version, which is WordPress.com. I suggest you get WordPress.org, which requires a little bit of money for hosting. You'll need a hosting company, such as GoDaddy or HostGator or something like that. Learn how to promote your blog. This is a large topic we can't really get into in great detail, but you're going to want to promote your blog via social networking, via speaking, via and anything you can think of to do. You'll want to come up with a promotion plan, and that's part of your business plan. Okay. Because I get asked this a lot, I thought I'd spend just a few minutes on how to promote a book with a blog. This is not blogging a book, but I just thought I'd give you this little bit of information because I get asked the question a lot, and I thought it might alleviate a few questions later on. You can promote a book that you already have with a blog, and here are a few ways to do that. You can blog about the topic of your book, and let me backtrack just a minute. So if you're going to, if you've finished your book, your blogged book, these are things you could be doing on your blog. Okay, so let's say you blogged your book and you're done. You can continue blogging about the topic of your book. You could blog about the characters in your book. You can tie into the news. You can blog about your news, things that are going on with you and your book. So if you're speaking somewhere, etc. Blog about your writing process. Blog about the themes in your book. This is great for novelists, okay, just like blogging about your characters, the themes in your book. You know, a lot of books have 2 or 3 themes, so you can write about that. Blog about anything and everything in your book. I talk about this with novelists. You know, if your book has you know, you go to Italy in your book, or your characters go to Italy and there's a dog in your book, or there's you know, suicide in your book. These are all things that can be blogged about on your blog. How to promote yourself with blogging. Again, this is a little bit ancillary, but again, when you're done with blogging your book, this is something you could be doing. And it ties into how to promote your blog and your blogged book. Always post a link to your latest blog post in your social network status updates. This is huge. This is especially great with Twitter. Have an author's blog where you blog about other topics. So you might want to actually have a second blog where you are blogging about other things. Blog often and consistently on topics you speak and write about. It is a great way to promote yourself. Okay, how to blog a book. So what you're going to do, now of course, you know, my book has way more information, but just in short detail, what you need to do to actually blog a book is you're going to come up with a content plan. So just like you would for any book, you're going to map out your content, figure out exactly what's going to go into your book. Okay, oh, I'm sorry. Let me backtrack. So we are now we're talking about booking a blog here. So let me clarify. So again, we're talking about booking a blog. So we had all those blogs that you saw, Julia and Julia, stuff white people like, Pamela Slim's book, Escape from Cubicle Nation. Okay, you saw that whole picture, all those pictures of those book covers. I said all of those were booked blogs, repurposed content. So I want to be very clear. For just a moment, we're going to talk about that because I get lots of questions on this. My book is not about repurposing content. It is not about booking a blog. There's a small section on that in the book. So let's just talk about it for a moment because I get lots of questions on it. Okay, so if you have a blog and you want to book your blog, you will create a content plan for your book. You will decide what is going to go in your book. Then you're going to search through your tags if you're in WordPress. You'll search through your tags. If you're in Blogger, these are called labels. These are the keywords you assign to your posts. You're going to search through these for relevant posts. The other thing you can do is you can search through your categories where you file your posts for relevant posts. You could also use the search function in your blog for keywords. Look at using keywords or keyword phrases, just like you would on Google. You know, you should have, each blog should have a search function, and you're going to search for relevant posts. And then you're going to copy and paste those relevant posts. Oops, sorry, there's a typo there, not pots, but posts, into a word processing document. Okay? So you're going to search your blog for the posts that are relevant for your content plan. And you're then going to plug them into a word processing document. So you're going to fill all those chapters that you have created in this content plan. You're going to fill them in with these posts. And then you're going to revise and write and edit because the likelihood is that those posts are not going to be enough. Okay, because you didn't write a book on your blog. You wrote a bunch of blog posts. That is the difference when you book a blog. You're going into your blog and you're looking for a bunch of posts that are totally unrelated. You just wrote a bunch of blog posts and now you're wanting to put them into a book. They may not work together very well. So you're going to have to make them work. Okay? The difference, let me go back. The difference when you blog a book is that you will have written your posts all in a, you will have written them in a, I think I'm going to go back so you can, I'm sorry, just so that you can see the difference. So here, if you look at this, the 7 things you need to do before you blog a book, here you are mapping out your book's content, breaking your content into post-sized pieces, and then you're writing your book, okay? So when you blog a book, you're actually going to map out that book's content and then break your content into those post-sized pieces, and then you're going to write the posts, and then you're going to write them one at a time. You're going to create a manuscript, and you're going to copy and paste those posts into your blog. And as you do that, you have created a manuscript, and you're putting them onto the blog. And they're all going to flow one after another. So you're actually building a book. So you build a book one post at a time, and it all flows together. Whereas the other way, and I'm sorry, I'm going to skip ahead again. The other way, you have you're actually piecing it together with posts that did not necessarily go together to begin with. So in one case, you have planned out a book and you are writing it on your blog, and in this case, booking a blog, you're actually going back and you are just trying to piece together something that didn't belong together to begin with. So blogging a book makes much more sense because you are coming at it from the sense of, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to write it on my blog. Booking a blog is going back and looking for a way to create a book that wasn't there to begin with. Okay, how to get discovered. You're going to drive traffic to your blog, you're going to write great content, and you're going to post often and regularly. So driving traffic to your blog is all these things we talked about in terms of promotion, social networking, speaking, writing articles, anything to do with getting people to come to your blog. Writing great content. Content itself serves to get people to your blog. When you write great content and you're focused, and especially for nonfiction writers, if you're writing content that is on topic and focused, it's going to be filled with keywords. And the keywords are what bring the search, that raise you up in the search engine. So the more you write content that's focused and on topic, it will organically be search engine optimized. And you won't have to focus so much on what are the right keywords for me to use or the right search terms to put into my content. It will just happen organically. And the more you write, the more, the higher up in the search engines you'll go, and the more easily found your blog will be, and the more readers you will get. So also the more great content you write, the more it will be passed around. The whole idea of being viral, having something go viral, has to do with writing great content. And that's why we say content is king. And then post often and regularly. These other books, which have also gotten book deals, F. Wall Street, The Art of Manliness, Scary Mommy, The Plot Whisperer, these are all books that were blogs that were successful. And the reason that they were successful is these people wrote often and regularly, and they landed book deals. And you can do the same if you post often and regularly and you write great content. So can any blog become a book? You have to see the big picture, and what that means is you have to go beyond being just a writer. You have to do what I call putting on your business hat. You can't just wear a writer's hat. You have to start thinking like a publisher or like an acquisitions editor. You have to ask yourself, is my book a viable business proposition? Because that's what a publisher wants. And even if you self-publish, you have to think that way too, because you then become the publisher. So you have to know if your book is a viable business proposition. So look at it through the eyes of an acquisitions editor and use what I call the proposal process. Get a copy of one of the books on writing a book proposal and go through that process. I have a book called How to Evaluate Your Book for Success that takes you through that without writing a book proposal. But you can do the same with any one of these books. Just go through and accumulate the information and look at your book in this way. Look, evaluate it against the competition. Find out if you have a market. Ask yourself if it's unique. Ask yourself if you know how to promote it, all these things, and decide if it's a marketable book. So at this point, well, let's see. So I'm going to go to questions, and yeah, so that's pretty much the idea. Is you need to really decide if your book is a marketable book, and to just make sure that when you go to blog your book that you're blogging a marketable book. And that's how you're going to attract readers as well. So you have to have a good idea. You have to have a book that is unique in the blogosphere, and also that will be unique in the bookstores. And you need to be producing a lot of content all the time. So let's stop here. And this is how you can find me. And I'm available for blog-to-book coaching and book and author coaching. But I'm going to stop now. And I'll leave a few minutes at the end for my concluding words. And I think now I will go to questions.
Hey, Nina, this is Julie. If you would like, I can assist you with questions. And hi to everyone that's on the line. I'm the one that's been answering the chat messages for anyone that's had technical difficulties, so now you hear me in voice form. Why don't I go ahead and just give you, Nina, a couple of the most commonly asked questions. We had about 7 people want to know if you could address the difference between fiction and nonfiction. Some of them said it sounds like most are fiction. Does nonfiction work as well?
Okay, yeah, that's a really common question. So blogging a book works better for nonfiction because it's so easy to take nonfiction and break it down into small post-sized bits. Because you can, like a nonfiction chapter is easy to break into subheads. And that's what I usually tell people to do, is to take a chapter and break it into like 20 or 25 subheadings, and then or even questions. And you can then address those on your blog. So that makes it very easy for nonfiction. For fiction, it's harder. It's not impossible, and there are people blogging fiction. But you have to decide how you're going to do that, whether you're going to write your whole chapter. So then if you do that, then you're sort of losing the idea of writing every day or 3 times a week for half an hour or whatever it is to write these posts. So you could write the whole chapter and then break it down into little bits, or you could decide to sit down and just write for 30 minutes, and that's what you post. And you break wherever you break. But with fiction, because the scenes may not be 250 words or 500 words, it's a little harder. So you have to decide how you want to do that, whether you just want to break wherever you break and leave your readers hanging, or whether you want to write in, by scene and post by scene. So it's a little trickier with fiction. And it's every author's decision how they want to do that. And you can do it, as a serial novel. You could do the whole chapter, but you're going to have a harder time building that following I'm talking about, because it really is about building a following over time. Does that answer that question that you think, Julie?
Yes, and the second most common question we had was, can you address, you had talked about WordPress.org versus WordPress.com. We had a handful of people wanting to know why you're recommending one over the other.
Yes. That's also a very common question. Okay, so WordPress.com is the so-called free version of WordPress. And the way I describe WordPress.com as opposed to WordPress.org, which is so WordPress.com is what we call hosted, and WordPress.com is hosted, and WordPress.org is self-hosted. WordPress.com, the hosted or free version, is like having your blog in an apartment building or condominium, and all the traffic you get goes to the same address as everyone else. If you get WordPress.org, which is the self-hosted or not free, meaning you have to pay for a hosting company like GoDaddy or HostGator. Not very expensive, but it costs a little bit. If you do that, you also have to buy a URL. So you're going to buy, like I have howtoblogAbook.com. So you buy yourself a URL. That means that all the traffic you garner for your blog goes to your address in cyberspace. So it's only your residence. So rather than sharing your address with a bunch of other blogs, it's only yours. And that's really what you want. You want all your traffic to go to your address and only your address. So that's why it's better. The other thing is that once you get going with a free blog and it gets successful, you will eventually want to have the self-hosted one at WordPress.org. And transferring it over can be done. It's not enormously difficult, but it has some problems. For instance, I have transferred 3 free blogs, and because I wanted to make sure all the photos remained intact and all of that, I am paying $12 or $15 a year for each of those three blogs to make sure everything's, all the photos and all stayed intact. And so you can avoid all of that by just starting out with the self-hosted ones at WordPress.org. And WordPress is by far the professional bloggers are all using WordPress.org. It's by far the best one to have.
Perfect. The third most common question we had was addressing poetry through a blog.
I have seen a wonderful, wonderful blog by a rabbi friend of mine. Well, she's not a friend, but a rabbi that I know who did poetry on a regular basis, and she also did an audio of her poetry where she would read it. And so you could read the poetry, or you could listen to the audio of her poetry. And her blog was enormously successful and mentioned as one of the top 20 or whatever it was blogs. Which magazine did that? Newsweek or Time? One of the big magazines had a listing of the top blogs, and she was listed in there. So yes, I would highly recommend doing poetry.
Perfect, thank you. Now for the rest, most of them are singular. Do you want to start going through, or do you want me to keep giving them to you? What's easier for you?
You can give them to me.
Okay.
I have them up.
One that's pretty interesting from Emily. She's a junior in high school, and she's a homeschooler. So I thought it'd be nice to help assist her. She said, I love to write on a blog, but I have nothing to say. What do you suggest that I write about, even as something general just to get started?
So if she's just if Emily just wants to blog, I always say stick with what you're passionate about. A blog, in general, a blog is something you do for a long time. So pick something you're passionate about that you want to blog about over a long period of time. Don't pick something that you're going to get bored with, because the blog goes on for, can go on, you can drop at any time, of course, and delete it. But I suggest that you pick something that you want to blog about for a long time. The other thing that I always say is, what do you know something about? Anything that you know something about that you're interested in or that you want to know more about is a great blog to start, because you can be researching it and learning and becoming an expert in it. Almost any topic that you want to become an expert in is a great area to start blogging on.
All right, and then another question. At what point is it better to self-publish from a blog as opposed to interest to lure a publisher by using the blog as bait?
Well, in both cases, I would say that you want to have a fair number of readers. Depending on the size of your publisher, how many readers you have is going to, the bigger publishers want to have lots of readers per month. And I have a lot of blogs, so my readers are cumulative. But some of the big traditional publishers are going to want to have thousands of readers a day or thousands of readers per month. So that's that's how you're going to decide when you want to go to a traditional publisher, is based on that. As For self-publishing, it's really the same gauge. How much interest do you have in your blog? How many readers do you have? But you can, as an indie publisher, decide at any point that you think you have enough interest and go forward. You also are going to want to decide how much content you want to put on your blog. So, for me, I blogged all but 2 chapters, and then I went off and I did another version of the book, and I completed the, I had just the first draft, so I did a second draft, and I completed the other 2 chapters. And that was what I gave to Writer's Digest, and then, of course, we did another 2 versions of the book as well before it was published. But so it really has to do with how many readers you want to have, and I didn't have as many readers as I really probably should have by the time I approached Writer's Digest, but it was a unique idea. It was a unique idea, and we really felt the need to be first to the market with it. So that's also important. How unique is it? Do you feel the need to be first to market? Do you feel like there's pressure that somebody else is going to grab your idea? But mostly it's how many readers you have. And for the traditional publishers, the bigger ones in particular, they're going to want to have a lot of unique readers. And it is unique readers you're looking for when you look at your blog statistics.
That's helpful. And something that you just talked about in a question when we came up really ties in. Kathy wants to know about copyright. She says, by putting it out there, is there a danger of someone will plagiarize your book that has been blocked?
So the copyright issue is addressed in my book and on my blog as well. Basically, the copyright laws say that once you print something out, it's copyrighted, and also once you hit that publish button on your blog, it really is copyrighted. You can also put the copyright sign on your blog. There is some what they call scraping that goes on, and sometimes something you've written does end up somewhere else, but it's probably not going to be your whole book. You can, if you're really, really worried, you can write the whole book first, I guess, and send it off to the copyright department, or you can send parts of it off as you go. I have never been worried about that, and when I consulted the lawyers, I did consult lawyers about this, and they did not seem to indicate that there was much worry about it, that basically, you retain the copyright, and as long as you've printed it out and all of that, you've managed to stay within the rights of the copy, or within the copyright laws. I think that there's more fear of not being discovered than of having your work stolen. I really do, and I have heard other experts out there say that in this day and age, it really is more about discoverability than anything else. And I highly recommend that you just get out there and you write. If you're really worried, one way to blog your book is to not blog all of it, to figure out a system where you're blogging portions and not everything, so that your whole book doesn't ever get stolen. And you can do that. You can work out a system. I work with people via coaching to work out a system where you're blogging parts of your chapter, so that not all of it ever is out there.
Great. We have a specific question from Alice. She said, I already have a blog on LiveJournal with a little more than 300 readers. I also have a writer's blog through WordPress that has very few readers. Is it best to do my blog-to-book project on my author's blog, or should I do it on the blog where I already have a following?
Probably to do it where you already have a following. And LiveJournal is actually, from my understanding, a good place to be. It doesn't put you, I don't know that much about LiveJournal, so I don't know how available it is to the wider public. You could, and you can't really do it in both places, because then it becomes a duplicate content issue, which Google doesn't like. So, but probably where you already have a following. The question is whether you can gain as large a following there as you might if you put it out in the wider public. So it's a little bit of a toss-up, but I'm trying to remember where Julia Powell had hers, whether that was at LiveJournal, because she got noticed where she was. So you might do some research and see whether Julia Powell had hers at LiveJournal. So, but probably where you already have a following.
Great. We are at our 60-minute mark. We can, it's up to you on time-wise. I know you have a couple more minutes of things to cover. Do you want to do another question or two, or do you want to cover your content and then, I'll send you questions and any you want to cover in your blog, you can do that. It's up to you.
What we could do is I could just go to the end of my presentation, and then if there are people who want to stay on the call and you want to stay on, we could do one or two more questions. I'm just conscious of people who might want to leave.
That sounds good. Go ahead and do that.
Okay. So I'll just cover this again. I'm happy to have people contact me via my website or my email address, which is here on this particular screen. And again, I'm available for blog-to-book coaching or book and author coaching, and I do offer other services like editorial services, so and book proposal consulting. Again, my book is available now in the online stores like writersdigestshop.com, and so you can purchase it there, and it's cheaper to purchase online. It's only $7.42 if you go to Writers Digest Shop instead of $12.99. But it should be arriving in the brick-and-mortar bookstores within the week, I believe. And I will mention that there is a foreword written by Christina Katz of Get Known Before the Book Deal and Writer Mama and the Writer's Workout, as well as Chris Garrett, who is one of the co-authors of Pro Blogger. So it is well represented by both people in the writers or authors in the writing world and in the blogging world. So please go out and buy the book. And then I want to leave those of you who are ready to get off the call now with a challenge, and that is to write a post a day and a book in a year or less. It really can be done. That is the phenomenal thing about blogging a book, and I have done it myself more than once, and that is that you really can, if you set yourself up with a schedule and you write a couple times, you write a blog post a couple times a week, and you are writing your book, you can write a book in very little time. I had that first draft done in just 5 months. So please write a blog post a day and a book in a year or less, and blog your way to a book deal or to a successful self-published book. If you're not discovered, write a book proposal and submit it, or self-publish your book. So good luck to all of you, and thanks for being on the call. And contact me if I can help you in any way. And for those of you who would like to stay on the call, I'm happy to answer 2 or 3 more questions.
Perfect. Let's say we'll stay on for about 8 more minutes, and we'll get a few more questions in. So just so all of you have time frame on that.
Great.
The next question that would be up is from Regina, and she says, if I do an outline, what happens if I have a blog on a topic for completeness that is not inherently interesting in itself? I've been blogging what I expect to become a book, but so far I've been writing more freely without a strict plan. If your book was twice as long as what you blogged, it sounds like you blogged for interest and not completeness. So I think here's the heart of her question. Did you start with a plan?
Okay. So yes, I started with a plan, and of course, when I started blogging a book, nobody else had this idea, blogging a book, so I was the guinea pig. So I've learned a lot since then. Actually, I know more than what's even in the book at this point. But I did start with a plan, and the plan, I wrote, as I said, what I thought was the first draft. But when I went to edit and revise, I realized I had more material, and so the book grew. And I did have 2 chapters that were not in there. One of those chapters was 5 success stories. So each of those success stories is 1,000 words or more. And of course, my developmental editor had questions for me and asked me to elaborate on different things. And so the book grew in that way as well. But I did have a plan. I did not meander. So in terms of your question, I think that you are going to have a situation where, if you don't, I would develop a plan now. I would look at what you've done, and I would develop a plan. And I would be editing the sections that you've already done to see what needs to be revised or edited or in some way changed, and I would move forward with a much clearer plan, because you're going to end up with a better blogged book. The idea really is to blog the book so that you end up with something that needs little editing. I mean, it will need editing because a blog is a little bit of a different animal than a normal book, and you do need to edit out things like all the bullets, and especially for nonfiction. There are more bullets, and you're going to be talking about, read the next post or in the last post, and there are things that need to be edited out, and it's a shorter form. So, but on the other hand, like I said, mine was too short. So it's much better if you plan it out and you can get all your content on there, because you're going to write longer. So it's much better to have a clearer plan. And had I had a clearer plan when I did it, I would have had more content, and it probably would have taken me more like 6 or 7 months, and I would have developed a greater readership, and that would have been better. But I was learning also. So that would be my answer. Here's another one on SEO. Actually, I don't know. We have a couple on SEO, so this may help. Cara says she recently read an article by Robert Lee Brewer, which is one of our Writer's Digest editors, that was in depth on SEO. Is search engine optimization something we need to worry about as much, or should our focus be more on captivating posts and making sure we include keywords? Yeah, I tend to not be very concerned with keywords. I recommend that you, maybe do one exercise in finding the best keywords for your subject matter, and then kind of put them over to the side, just know what they are, and then just write on topic. If you are writing nonfiction and you write on topic consistently, day in and day out, you will have plenty of keywords, and you will search engine optimize your site without any problem. How to blog a book comes up number one most often. Of course, it looks a little different than what, if you were to go and put in how to, blog a book or anything related to blogging a book into Google, your page is going to look a little different than mine. It's just the way it works. But it pretty much comes up number one most often because I just wrote on topic all the time. And you will have the same success rate if you do that. So no, I do not really worry about keywords. And the way Google is changing its algorithms, it is leaning more and more towards just really great content. And if you just write good, focused content all the time, you will search engine optimize your site. So I don't know if that's what he's telling you as well. I haven't read what he wrote, but that would be my recommendation. And how about we'll do one last question, and then Nina, I'll send you the question file, and any that you feel like need to be addressed still, everyone can go visit your blog to see any further answers. The last one, I hope I'm saying the name right, it's Dario. Supposing you have already gathered a decent reading audience, but you cannot seem to get your book published, how much of your entire book, more or less, would it be wise to give away via a blog? Example, not more than half, then switch to other topics, etc. I would, well, if you blogged the book, I would, I'm unclear whether he's already blogged the book. It sounded like he had. So I would, if the book is already on the blog, I would leave it there, and then I would take that book and I would edit it and revise it and maybe add something new to it to make it enticing to readers, and I would produce it as either an ebook or a print-on-demand book, and I would do it in its entirety, but I would have something extra in there to entice new readers as well as the old readers, because your old readers who enjoyed the book will buy it as well. They will be happy to have it in a printed form or as an ebook. So I would say, if the question is how much of it to produce, all of it, and how much to leave on the blog, I would leave whatever you've already published. I wouldn't take any of it down. Great, thank you. So go ahead, and if you have any last closing words, go ahead and say those, and thanks everyone as well for joining us. And thank you for helping. I will take the questions that are left, and what I'm going to do is I will look through them all, and I will probably in June address as many of those questions as I can in blog posts. So, because your questions are important to me, and they tell me what my readers or potential readers are interested in. So please watch in June for some of the answers to your questions. And thank you again for being on the call. And I hope you will go out and buy the book. And I hope more than that, that you will try blogging a book, because it really is the quickest and easiest way to write a book and to promote it at the same time. So thanks again, and good luck.